The best players never react. They anticipate. In psychological warfare, the weak move first. The strong observe. Most people think life is a conversation, a back and forth. Say something, hear something, react. But it's not. Life is a chessboard, and every word, every silence, every look, it's a move. And here's the truth. Most people only see the piece in front of them. They don't see the pattern. They don't see the trap. They don't see the 3 moves waiting behind the next decision. But when you think like a strategist, you don't just play the game. You shape it. You slow it down. You corner them without them knowing it, because real power isn't about speed. It's about precision. It's about staying 3 moves ahead, always. Part 1. Why most people only think 1 move ahead. Most people don't think. They react. They don't play the game. They respond to it, always 1 step too late. Why? Because most minds are trained for survival, not strategy. They're wired to seek comfort, validation, emotional balance, not control, not foresight, not silence. The reactive mindset. You say something hurtful, they fire back. You pull away, they chase. You show emotion, they mirror it or manipulate it. Everything they do is based on your last move, not on the pattern behind it. That's the definition of emotional chess blindness. They only see the surface, the moment, the now. And when you live in the now, you fall into every trap laid in the future. Why it's a weak position? When you only think 1 move ahead, you argue to win the moment, but lose the power dynamic. You speak to defend yourself, not realizing you're validating their frame. You react out of emotion while they set the next trap. You become readable, predictable, controllable. Even worse, you feel in control while being completely played, because what looks like a victory in the moment might be a setup for checkmate 2 moves later. Strategic thinkers see the invisible. Those who master psychological chess don't think, what do I want to say right now? They think, if I say this, they'll think that, then react like this, which opens that, and that's where I strike. It's never about this move. It's always about the move after the response. They're watching not just what you do, but what you're about to do, and how to shape that before you even realize it. The core problem. Most people are emotionally addicted to immediacy. They want to resolve tension quickly. They want to feel right, understood, validated now. But in chess and in power, those who rush lose. Those who slow down see the whole board, and those who see control. Part 2. The core principle of psychological chess. Pattern reading. In chess, beginners chase pieces. Masters see patterns. They recognize setups, traps, rhythms. The same is true in psychological warfare. Because people don't operate on logic. They operate on patterns, emotional scripts, subconscious reactions, unconscious tells, and once you see the pattern, you can control the game. Everything repeats. Nobody is truly random. They think they're unique. They think they're unpredictable, but under pressure, emotion, ego, everyone defaults to familiar behavior. The liar, same sequence of defensiveness and shifting blame. The manipulator, same rhythm of guilt-tripping, withdrawing, then love-bombing. The insecure one, same push-pull chaos dressed up as, I just need clarity. Different faces, same code. And if you know how to read that code, you're no longer responding to the surface. You're exploiting the pattern underneath. How to read a pattern. Track emotional cycles. Do they get distant every time you get too close? Do they escalate right after you assert a boundary? Do they shift tone when control slips? Notice timing. Is their kindness always followed by a demand? Does conflict always arise after you win something? Do they show up when you detach? Spot repetition, same excuses, same power plays, same reactions when you go silent. Once is random, twice is coincidence. 3 times, it's the script. Why this matters. Most people respond to behavior, but the strategist responds to patterns. Because behavior can change, patterns rarely do. And when you see the pattern, you're no longer asking, "What do I do now?" You're asking, "What is the next move they always make? And how do I position myself to trap it before it arrives?" From reading to rigging. Once you can read patterns, you can start rigging them. You push a boundary not to test them, but to confirm their script. You withhold information not to hide, but to see how they fill the blanks. You let them speak, not to hear, but to measure which part of the loop they're stuck in. You stop reacting. You start orchestrating. When you can read the pattern, you no longer play against the person. You play against their programming, and most people have never updated their code. Part 3. Strategic delay. Never move when they expect you to. In psychological chess, timing is a weapon. Sometimes the strongest move is no move at all. Most people expect speed, quick replies, instant reactions, emotional feedback. That's what they're programmed to exploit, because if they can predict your next step, they can control it. But when you delay, when you wait, when you pause with purpose, you break the rhythm. You break their script. You break the game. Why strategic delay works. Humans are addicted to patterns of interaction: message, reply, accusation, defense, compliment, validation, silence, panic. But when you disrupt the loop, when you don't move when expected, you create confusion. And confusion breaks control. They start asking, why aren't they responding? Did I lose power? Are they planning something? Did I go too far? Their mind starts running, not because of what you did, but because of what you didn't. The power of the pause. Silence isn't passive. Delay isn't retreat. They are weapons. When you wait, you observe more. You gather data. You let the other side act out their pattern fully. And then you move with precision, not to react, but to dominate. How to use strategic delay. Break predictable response cycles. Don't argue on their timing. Don't reply to every message. Don't answer every emotional jab. Stretch the gap between stimulus and reaction. They act, you pause. Let their anxiety build. Let them reveal more than they planned. Let them fill the silence. In the absence of your words, they'll talk more, reveal more, panic more, re-enter with control. When you return, come in with clarity, cold, measured. Now they're off balance. And you hold frame. What this looks like in action. They send a manipulative message. You leave it on read for hours, days, maybe forever. They try to provoke a reaction in public. You smile, say nothing. Let the silence surround them. They expect emotional engagement. You give zero energy. Let the void do the damage. You don't explain. You don't chase. You make them wait. And in that waiting, they unravel. Strategic delay is not weakness. It's warfare. It's how the quietest minds win the loudest battles. Because the move they fear most is the one you haven't made yet. Part 4. Framing the board. Control the context, not the conflict. In chess, the strongest players don't chase pieces. They control the board. And in psychological warfare, you don't need to win arguments. You don't need to dominate every sentence. You just need to control the frame. Because once you control the context, you control the game, even if they think they're winning. What is a frame? A frame is the invisible structure of an interaction. It's the unspoken rules, the emotional tone, the underlying assumption of who holds power here. Most people walk into conversations reacting to someone else's frame. They defend, justify, explain themselves, try to be understood. But the one who controls the frame doesn't explain, doesn't chase, doesn't adjust. They set the environment, and others conform to it. Examples of frame control. Instead of proving you're right, you ask why their assumption matters. Frame shift, from defense to interrogation. Instead of reacting to insults, you act like you didn't hear them. Frame shift, from tension to indifference. Instead of explaining yourself, you remain silent. Frame shift, from negotiation to dominance. It's not about what's said, it's about who dictates the ground rules. How to control the frame. Be the first to set the tone. Don't match energy. Set it. Speak slower, quieter, with certainty. Let them adjust to you. Use questions to reverse pressure. Shift from "I need to answer" to "they need to explain." Asking calmly, "Why would you assume that?" flips the power dynamic instantly. Refuse emotional hooks. When someone attacks emotionally, don't defend emotionally. Just stare. Or walk away. Let them swing at shadows. Keep your frame under attack. Never rush to restore peace. Let the tension build. Let their discomfort grow inside your calm. Frame is the real battlefield. You could say everything right and still lose the game if you're speaking inside their frame. But if you speak little, move slowly, remain still, and every word they say feels like it's happening inside your space, then you've already won. Because the person who chooses the rules doesn't need to win the debate. They own the arena. Controlling conflict is loud. Controlling context is silent. And the one who controls the frame doesn't just play better, they play invisible. Part 5. The 3-move rule. Play forward, not backward. Amateurs think in moments. Strategists think in chains. Every move you make should trigger 2 more that follow. Not reactions, consequences. This is the 3-move rule. Before you speak, act, or respond, you ask, if I do this, what will they likely do next? And then what will I do after that? Most people only think 1 move deep. They say something because they feel it. They defend themselves because they're triggered. They act to escape discomfort now. But power doesn't live in the first move. It lives in the third. Because that's where outcomes are shaped. That's where traps are triggered. That's where leverage is born. The strategic chain of moves. Let's say someone insults you publicly. The reactive move: snap back, defend, fire a clever insult. The 3-move response: you remain silent, unexpected. They escalate out of discomfort, reveal more insecurity. You respond calmly later when the power has shifted. End result? They look unstable. You look untouchable. You win the game, not the moment. The formula. Every move you make should be based on their likely reaction. What pattern will this trigger? Your planned response to that reaction. How do I capitalize when they make that move? Your ultimate position. Where do I want to end up when this sequence is done? If you don't know move 3, you don't make move 1. The power of planning. While they react. Once you live by the 3-move rule, you become harder to read, harder to trap, harder to move. Because while they're still reacting to your first move, you're already playing your third. They think they're in the game, but they're 3 steps behind. And by the time they realize it, it's already over. Most people react. You've learned to anticipate. Most people think in single moves. You've trained your mind to move in sequences. You're no longer asking, what should I do now? You're asking, how do I make this move lead to power 2 steps later? That's psychological chess. Not about being loud, not about being right, but about thinking deeper, slower, sharper. Because when you master the board, you don't rush, you don't chase, you don't defend, you guide, you trap, you checkmate quietly. And that silence, that strategy, that foresight, it makes you dangerous because no one sees your move until it's too late. But there's one more tactic to master. Curiosity. The invisible pull that keeps them checking, guessing, needing. If control is built on clarity, obsession is built on mystery. Next video, number 90. Weaponize curiosity. How to become mentally addictive. Learn how to use absence, ambiguity, and selective silence to make people chase the version of you they can't quite figure out.